When people hear the name Junior Aumavae, what do you hope they understand about who you are as a person?
Yeah, that's a pretty big question. But when people say my name or think of me, what I like for them to think is that I was a guy that is chasing after God's will, and that I represented my family well, but I ultimately represented Jesus Christ.
Pulse of Polynesia. Baseline rumble, feel the ground quake. Drums hit harder than a tidal wave break. Hands in the air, let the crowd participate. We move the islands. Yeah, the vibe came. Some strength in my blood, call it lava flow. Words are up every.
Tonight's guest carries a story that spans many worlds, from American Samoa roots to growing up in Alaska and currently in Washington, Tacoma, to chasing the dreams of professional football and ultimately stepping into leadership and community impact. His journey reminds us success isn't just about the moments on the field, but about the lessons learned through struggles, faith, and responsibilities we carry for the next generation. Today, we're honored to sit down with a former NFL football player, a community leader, and a mentor, Junior Aumavae. Junior, welcome to Pulse of Polynesia.
Thank you so much, Leaso, and thank you for having me on the podcast, and also Crystal. It's a pleasure to be here and talk and have a great time.
When people hear the name Junior Aumavae, what do you hope they understand about who you are as a person?
Yeah, that's a pretty big question. But when people say my name or think of me, what I like for them to think is that I was a guy that is chasing after God's will, and that I represented my family well, but I ultimately represented Jesus Christ.
I like that. I like that. That says a lot about a person when they put God first. And I feel like that is the root to success in surviving in this crazy world that we live in. So,
amen.
Yeah. Well, Junior, tell us about yourself.
Amen.
Tell us about your upbringing, your childhood. I believe you started out in American Samoa, as we all have. I'm from the village of Manailo, Chris, the east side as well.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. So my family, my dad's side of the family is from Ili, and my mom's side is from Western Samoa, Savai'i, Lava. But I was born in the American Samoa, Ili, LBJ Hospital. All of us were born there. And that's where the journey started, was the nice Pacific Islands of American Samoa. And where eventually my family moved out to the States in Washington State, and then where most of my upbringing was in Alaska.
Alaska, burr.
Right?
Yeah. You talk about two different parts of the world. I mean, you go from high temperatures to just like freezing to snowstorms, like about 6 months out of the year. So it's a lot.
That is a lot. From one temperature, like Junior had been saying, to like the cold, like just having to adjust from two different environments. That's pretty cool.
How old were you when you guys moved to Alaska?
Yeah, so when we journeyed out from American Samoa, we actually journeyed to Washington State. My dad needed some medical stuff done. We all know that American Samoa can improve in that area as far as medical and those kind of things, but he ended up going to Washington State to get some stuff done for his internal organs and stuff like that. So we spent time in Washington. I was about 4 years old when we went out there, and then when we transitioned to Alaska, I was about 7 years old to Alaska, where my dad helped start the Lokwashiga Church, the Samoan church up in Alaska. So.
I have to say it's probably in the Anchorage location, because that's where everybody starts off, in Anchorage.
Yeah. So when my dad moved up into Anchorage to help start the Lokwashiga Church out there, it's in Anchorage. It's right outside of downtown. It's on the strip that's right out there.
Oh, I've never been to Alaska. Have you, also?
I actually lived there for 19 years.
Ooh,
yeah. Yeah. So I understand like how, the upbringing and but to more stuff, because I wanted to ask questions about, your upbringing in Alaska that had transpired your journey. But yes, Crystal, it was like a sauna in Samoa to a Dutch freezer in Alaska.
A
different world there, but definitely different. Going back to you, Junior, I wanted to ask about you when you guys left. Well, you were pretty much little, 4 years old. When you were in Washington and in Alaska, your dad's condition, and I know in LBJ is not really, it really doesn't have the tools needed for, our healthcare. A lot of us want to go back home, but then we're like questioning, like, is it doable? When you were there with your dad and your mom, how was the transition as a little boy? Because you're still in that mid age of trying to figure things out.
Yeah, moving to Washington, I really don't remember much as far as like conditions, as far as weather and that kind of stuff. I did notice a pattern when we went to Alaska. So as soon as we hit Alaska, it was a whole different world. It was like Jurassic Park. It's just a whole different world. But it was colder. It didn't matter if you wore a jacket. It didn't matter if you wore waterproof shoes. The cold will get you up there. But most of the stuff that we dealt with in Alaska, it's different. It's isolated. Even though it's part of the United States, it's isolated. It's a different area, kind of like Las Vegas. Las Vegas, it's its own different beast. Las Vegas, yeah, everybody knows Las Vegas is different. Just same thing with Alaska. It's a whole different beast as far as like location, the setting, the people that are around there. And of course, Seattle is known for the rain. So
Right.
we got a lot of rain in Seattle.
And it's so beautiful. I mean, I just love Washington. It's just the most beautiful state that I've ever seen. Just with the trees and everything like that. I just love it. I just don't like the rain. I mean, I could deal with rain for one day, but then a whole week or two, I'm just like, I'm back in Vegas.
Right. I know like journeying into a different atmosphere and understanding like different environments and stuff, faith does play a big part in a family keeping it together, especially in transitioning. How do you remember that growing up with your own family?
I contributed that to my parents. So I contributed that to my dad, my father, my mom. Back on the island, our family, Solomon tribe, actually, we have about 11 churches that are on our land, that Guaspika Church, which is where my mom and my dad help build up there. And they really kind of stick to those values, whether we went to Washington State and then went to Alaska. I attribute it to them because we came from a family of 13, 10 girls, 2 brothers. And so we needed Jesus in the house. So
You said 10 girls?
Yeah, so I got 10 sisters and I got 2 brothers. So, we need Jesus in the house to be able to raise us kids, but also, strengthen our parents to be able to raise us in the right way. And so they did a great job. Yeah, they did a great job of instilling that at a young age so that when we got older, we're like, oh, that's why I got sasad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't, as children, we go through those not understanding because the way that we're being disciplined, I don't know about you, but my discipline didn't come with whys.
Yeah.
It just came with, go over there and do as I told you to do. So,
Yeah, I think we all have an understanding, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not until you meet your other ethnic friends that are Samoan or Polynesian that you start to realize, why did I get whipped? That was not right. That you don't understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it's biblical. So if you look in the Bible, it says, you can't spare them the rod. So unfortunately, I was getting the rod a lot. So
I feel you. I've been there a lot of times.
Wait, Junior, I forgot to ask you. Your family name. I know you mentioned your mom is from Savai'i, your dad is from Ili in American Samoa. What are the family names that ties to Aumavae?
Yeah, so Aumavae is actually our Makai high chief in our family. So we have 4 families that are part of our clan, which is the Salem out there at Ili. And so the Aumavae is the highest chief, and there's 3 other chiefs underneath that name. And so my dad, his dad was the high-speaking chief Aumavae. So his first name was Talomu, but when he was named Aumavae, he was named Aumavae. And so my dad took that last name too, Aumavae. And now we're looking to see who the next Makai is in our family since passed away. And so we're in the process as family to figuring that kind of stuff out. And, my name has come up, but we'll see if it's in God's will. But that's how the Aumavae title in our family lineage is.
Wow. And is that something that you want to do? As far as the title is concerned, that's a huge responsibility for a family.
Yeah, you guys know how it is with the title and the commitments and the good and the bad. There's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad that the person, whoever's in charge, got to have that level head to be able to handle it in a godly way. So if it's in God's will, then if it's in God's will.
By the way, how are your parents doing?
Yeah, so my dad, he passed away about 8 years ago, natural causes, had a heart attack.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's a good thing we believe in Jesus because we'll be able to meet again and once that second coming. But my mom, she's strong. She's got over 100 grandbabies, great grandbabies. So she's got one of the grandbabies is actually playing right now for the Washington Commanders, named Salah Aumavae.
Okay.
And so she's got some very successful grandbabies, and a lot of them go through college and graduate high school. So it's been a blessing for her.
That's such a huge blessing to have 100 grandchildren. Your family is definitely blessed with all those wonderful, beautiful children, and then also being able to play and take on the role in the NFL like you. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, God is good. God is good. Good thing I didn't have a broken leg.
Yeah. Being in a household full of 10 girls and there's just 2 boys, I can imagine me and all my sisters together. It's like this all the time. And I take it being with your sisters, they do also bring that peace to the spiritual side for the man. So what are your thoughts on growing with your sisters, growing up with them?
I keep telling everybody they prepared me for the NFL. I mean, every situation that does in my life, they prepare me to, like, the good, the hard times, the tough times. But living with my sisters has been a huge blessing because I did learn a lot from my sisters. Even though every single one of them are different characters, it was a blessing to grow up with 10 sisters. It gave me a different perspective as far as like a man and a woman, as far as like looking at different perspectives. It really kind of gave me that perspective when growing up with them. But I tell you what, they can fight.
What Samoan woman can? Well, me. Where are you in the numbers for your sibling?
Yeah, so my dad, he had 6 girls, and he kept trying to get a boy, and then I finally came after 6 girls, and I was the first boy, so I'm the oldest boy. And then my dad was like, "Let me get another boy." So he got another boy. So my brother Keith was born, and then he was like, "You know what? 6 girls, 2 boys. We need another boy." And then that's when 4 other girls came, and then the last son came at the end.
Wow, that's a blessing. I mean, a lot of women, they when there's a toll on a person's body for women to go through that, and so being able to be blessed, to be strong enough to be able to bear children, especially that much, is a blessing. That's amazing. So again, I can't say it enough. Your family is very blessed.
Yeah. My mom was very strong. Her upbringing was very strong too. She tells the stories about Hawaii and traveling on the boats to get to American Samoa to marry my dad. Oh man, I was like, oh, she's strong.
Tell us a story about your mom and dad. How did they?
Oh, you get mad at me. You don't want me to tell the story.
Yeah, it's a thing. But I think that was pretty interesting. To the stories that you hear about your parents and how they met, especially for Hawaii, American Samoa.
Yeah. So she actually was traveling to American Samoa to live with a family that told her she'll get better opportunities. And hopefully I'm not throwing any of the family under the bus, but when she made her trip out to American Samoa, it wasn't the situation that was promised, and it really kind of put her on a different route that was kind of tough for her life. Then if you fast forward a little bit, she went through some rough times, and that's where she met my father up in American Samoa. And my father ended up marrying her, and then the history has been written 13 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. It was meant to be.
Yeah, it was meant to be. It was meant to be.
That sure was.
I wanted to ask again about, with your parents and just see, I've always been intrigued by the stories once I learn about a person. There's so much information about you online, but then you don't really know until you talk to someone, like a podcast. And even with the podcast, there's just so much information that are kept private. Having so many siblings can also put a toll on individuals. And I say this because your parents being so busy trying to take care of church. Times where you felt like, man, I feel like I'm not being seen or heard while growing up.
Yeah, you guys probably experienced this too, but like in the Samoan culture, child really doesn't have a voice speaking out. That's just the way it is. It's in the respectful way. Even just walking across, not saying excuse, you get bold. It's just, as a child, you really don't have that voice to kind of express. Kind of like in the States, when you watch these movies, they're like, "Oh heck no, that would not happen in Samoan house."
Yeah.
So as a child, there was a lot of things that I couldn't express, a lot of things that I couldn't say without being either sasad or being put in place, checked in front of my friends or people like that. Just because we learned in our culture, you just don't do that as a child. You can't voice your opinions and speak out and things like that, because the elders, you're taught to respect the elders. You're taught to respect the process in our culture. And so as a child, that could be difficult. But as I grew older, as a man, as a young man, I understood there were reasons and there were systems in place for me to kind of fall in line with those different things that my dad put in place, and also my mom.
Yeah, and those guidelines that our parents give us, especially in our culture, because I think it's just a beautiful culture all the way around because it's about respect and everything like that. The one thing that I love is the respect that our parents teach the children at a very young age. Because if you see the kids in these days, here in the mainland, it's completely opposite, because they're more emotional and they are able to express themselves. And so what would you do different now that you're older and experiencing all the things that your parents have done? Would there be something different that you would teach your children or the youth at this time coming up? Or is there something that you would do or kind of like change just certain things around to help the children of today or the youth of today?
Yeah, I think one thing that I do different compared to my parents is kind of personalizing when I communicate with my children. So like when I was me and my parents or family, we would communicate. It wouldn't just be a personalized thing. It would be kind of like a broad thing. This is what you guys do. You guys follow the rules, and that's it. Where now I really kind of just sit my kid down, my son down, my daughter down, and say, hey, listen, this is the expectations, this is why, and then have a conversation back and forth. When I grew up, we didn't have those kind of conversations in our household, and that's what I do differently now compared to what my father and my mother did. I'm not saying they did it better or worse. All I'm saying is me as myself personally. That's what I do now with my children. So like when we go to like Samoan functions or we go to things they don't understand, then I'll really have a conversation. Whereas before, if I was a kid, I'd be like, why they do that? Pow!
No. Yeah.
Go pick up the pea soup and take it to them now.
Yeah.
Right. Don't ask questions, just do it.
Yeah.
That kind of
And
thing.
that still happens today. That still happens today. But that's the kind of change that I kind of made with my kids. It's like when we're going through these traditional functions, I walk them through like, hey son, you gotta say excuse me when you walk by elders or people like that because it's the Samoan way and you gotta respect. Whereas if you just did,
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was that. I would always get hit by her. I'm like, dang, I don't even know what I did. And she's like, make sure you say hello when you walk in front of people. And I'm like, okay. And then the one time I had no idea about, when you stand up eating, I didn't know. I was just eating, standing up, and then she just came and slapped me. And I was like, what did I do? She's like, all that. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so then I learned, I was like, okay, she's absolutely right. Don't be rude and eat like that in front of people. But yeah, parents, our Samoan parents are quite funny and they're super blunt in front of your American friends.
Yeah.
They don't care what happens. They'll tell you and your friends off, and I'm like, sorry, that's just how my mom is. Don't mind her. She's just, kind of like.
In Samoa, it's okay because everybody is used to that. Their own parents are the same way. But when you're in America, it's like,
Yeah,
she looks like me, but I don't know her.
Yeah. What's funny is I just got back traveling from America Samoa in January, and stay with family. And when I sit there and I listen to how like stuff is doing in America Samoa, like as soon as someone gets bold, you're like, oh snap. You get used to being in America, right? You get used to being in America when you go back there, and everybody, he's just like, oh.
I remember the one time I told him, I'm going to call the cops on you. And she goes, oh, call the cops. I'll still beat you up in front of the cops and take me to jail. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's not going to work.
So there's definitely differences as far as like upbringing and whether it be in America Samoa or United States, because I can also see the difference where that's not present here in America. And there is the disrespect. There is those kinds of things that do happen that we're like, that's not going to happen in a Samoan house, So I do see the contrast between America and also America Samoa and how they did things.
Yeah. So like I mentioned about how I lived in Alaska for so many years and only left to go to school and came back. But we had to pull our kids out because we felt like Texas was better situated as far as affordability and education, and the affluence was not that great for my kids around there. I believe that your family had to move you guys out of Palmer. Is that correct? They wanted something better for you?
Yeah. So just like your situation there, in Anchorage, actually, there was a lot of bad influences on me as a kid, to where, I had problems happen in the home. And when there's problem in the home and things aren't the same, I mean, obviously it'll take a toll on your mentals. And so I was trying to find that somewhere else. I found it in gangs. I found it in like the troublemakers because it felt like home, right?
Right.
And so when I got into that kind of stuff, a lot of people can relate, they're missing that family dynamic. Well, they find it in a different group because it's familiar with them. Well, that's what happened with me is I found familiarity with these different groups, and that led me to a different path that was trouble. Like I was failing on my grades. I was fighting every time. I didn't care about fighting because, it was for the greater good of our group, our gang, whatever. And so my mom decided finally to just one day after I got in a fight to surprise me with my sister Helen, who lived in Palmer, which is about 45 minutes out from the main city, and moved me out of that situation. And that's where I moved with my sister out to it's called the Valley. And so I went out to the Valley, nothing but Palangi kids. I was the only Samoan there, but it separated me from the individuals that was not really out for my best interest.
Kind of like the same thing happened to me growing up because my mom was brought up in Carson, California.
Ooh.
And so like in the 80s, she saw that it was getting worse and worse and worse. And so she was like telling her husband, my dad was like, we need to move. And so they moved us to American Samoa. And I'm like so happy that they did because it just taught me the culture, the language to appreciate and a lot of the craziness that goes on in Samoa. But yeah, sometimes like when you don't have great influences around you, you tend to do the things that your friends do. A lot of the times you don't realize what you're doing because your perspective is, oh, this is my friend, this is my homie, and then other people like the older generation or just people before you, they're like, oh, my poor nephew or my poor son, he's going through this situation that I would not want him to go through because of course our parents, their goal is for us to have a better living than they did, and they definitely don't want us to fall into bad situations like that.
Yeah, and at that time when that did happen to me, where they moved me out, oh man, I felt like my parents were the worst people in the world. Like I really thought they betrayed me, but really they were looking out for my best interest. And I really credit my mom for doing that because it really did change the trajectory of my life. Was taking me out of a situation that I should have been in and putting me in a better position, kind of like your story, Crystal.
Yeah, so what do you think about parenting these days? Because I feel like our Samoan community here in the diaspora or in the U.S. or the mainland, I just feel like our priorities are kind of different with a lot of the parenting that are going through with troubles with their children and their situations because they're not able to really have that communication like how you have that communication with your kids. And so I feel like there's a lack of communication or there's just not that support that they have. What would you say to parents that are parenting their children these days, especially our Polynesian community, to help uplift and motivate them?
What I would say to kids, or are you asking for parents or kids?
Parents.
Parents. Okay, so I'll just speak on my experience with my parents. And I can only do that because that's what I experienced as a young man growing up and the things that they helped me be successful in my life. And that was really instilling Jesus in a family. And so one thing I noticed when I went back, especially in Western Samoa, I went to Western Samoa to visit our family in Aumavae and Savai, is they did a great job instilling Jesus, not only in the family, but also in the community. Like at certain times in the community, you can hear the bell. It'll start ringing. I mean, it just goes ding, ding. And that means everybody in the whole country has to stop what they're doing and praise Jesus. And literally, families next door, I mean, literally just like feet away from our house, you can hear them do loku. You could hear another family do loku. You could hear another family do loku down the street. And really the whole country is doing loku at that time. And that's what my family brought to America when they came from American Samoa, is they were still doing that when we came in America. We still do it today. Like even with my kids, our family, we do local time, and we just really kind of put all of our teachings into the Bible, not really like what someone tells us how best a parent should coach somebody. We really kind of go to the scriptures and we kind of just try to follow the scriptures. And
I love that.
Yeah, and that's what my parents did, was always put it on the scripture so that, we can't look at them and say, hey, you told me this, but if you put the scriptures out there, then you really can't argue with the scriptures. But that's what my parents did, is they just instilled the word, but also kind of put it in action too in our family.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you.
I like that because, like, even at work, if I were to do something and I get people calling, I always refer to policy. This is what the government policy is.
Yeah.
So, like what you said, if anybody comes at me, I'm right there.
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly.
I do that with my kids too. When I was talking to them, they're like, "Hey, why you?" It says here I shouldn't spare the rod.
It's a good
What
one.
you got now?
Because I used to always say, "Why are you always hitting me?" And then because you're bad, or because and I'm like, that is not any reason to hit somebody. But okay,
Yeah, it says here, don't steal. Did you steal? Okay. It says here, I need to toss you. Like,
Point blank, yeah.
it says here I need to discipline you.
So I have to ask, Junior, you mentioned about how you were very upset at your parents for having to transition from moving from Anchorage to Palmer. When was the turning point for you when you realized that, wow, that decision was the best decision to help me?
the turning point is when I joined football. And so I'd never played football in my life until I was a sophomore in high school. And the only reason why I found that is because I was taking a walk. My sister kicked me out of the house because I was finished with my chores. So she's like, "Go do something. Go find something." So I went and took a walk, and I heard like these noise in the woods, and I walked through the woods. And when I walked through the woods, it was a football team, and it was the high school football team out there in the valley. And the coach stopped the whistle and everything. Everybody looked, was like, "What the heck, that big Samoan guy?" So they saw this big Samoan guy come out of the woods, and they looked at me like, "Oh my gosh, what the heck he should be playing football." And then that's how I got introduced to football. Is I accidentally not accidentally, God put me in a position to step into that field. And so when I got into that field, that's where I met a football coach that really kind of mentored me and really showed me the ropes, really showed me the ropes on to restart. And that's, a lot of people forget that you can restart even at a young age. And so when I was mad at them for, having me to restart my friend circle, all that stuff, I was pretty upset, but in the long run, God had a better plan. And that's where I met that mentor who really walked me through the ropes when I was young.
I like that. How old were you? Okay, so you guys moved during your sophomore year?
Yeah, right in the thick of it. Sophomore year, we moved out there to the valley, got kicked out of the main schools because I got kicked out of schools, and my mom was there with my sister, and they moved me out to the valley. And then that's where I was out there watching her sons and being the babysitter, doing all the fayals, all the stuff that I didn't want to do for my sister. But it was a blessing in disguise because when I was doing all the fayals, she had a big old yard. I mean, the yard was huge. It took me about 6 hours to mow the yard. And the whole time
that's a huge yard.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
I know. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I was like, what the? And she didn't have the riding lawnmower too. She had the pushing lawnmower.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that was a blessing in disguise too, because when I was pushing the lawnmower, it was actually strengthening my legs.
Right.
And so it was strengthening my legs. I didn't know he was strengthening my legs for football, but it was strengthening my legs and getting stronger.
Wow.
Well, my nephews that were running around, which is Falangi and Sala. Remember I told you Sala plays for the Washington Commanders?
Yeah.
He was one of the little nephews that was watching doing all the fayals out there.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
So that's God, that's God just doing all those things.
Yep. Amen. Yeah.
What high school were you in Anchorage in your freshman year?
I actually went to a few high schools. I went to West High School, and that didn't work out. And then I went to East High School, and then that's where I got kicked out of East High School.
So, and I only asked this because West and East and also Bartlett is filled with so many you got Tongan Samoans and also, different ethnicities. And it's hard to imagine. And I've said this many times before because you have so much talent there. And they're not being pulled out to be mentored, and so to see the story of how you were able to get out of that situation, because there's a lot of big boys up in Anchorage that go to high school, get kicked out, go through, and they decide to go do all these bad things, and during my time there, nobody was mentoring those kids, and I should have said nobody. I'm sure there were, but there was not that foundation and, that big support to really drill into those boys and have them feel the spirit to guide them to where they needed to go. Just like how your sister may not know, but the spirit may have led her to say, hey, do something, and also with the lawnmowing and then getting out there to play football and stuff. It's a testimony in itself. How do you know that played a part in your faith?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, like Alaska. I don't know if you know, Crystal. Do you got family up in Alaska?
A lot of family. I've just never been to Alaska.
Oh, well, if you go there, you'll probably find out you have more family because there's a lot of Samoans up there.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Tongans. There's a lot of Cambodians. It's one of the most diverse places in the United States as far as communities.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Which is why I kind of started a program. It's a middle school program. that I start in the Anchor School District, where we teach the kids about like life skills that I've learned as a pro in the NFL. And so I started that up in the Anchor School District, and we started doing that. But when I was young, we really didn't have anything like that unless you ran into like a coach or somebody like that within the sport.
Mm. Yeah. And so with that program, is it just helping the Polynesian kids, or is it helping troubled kids, or?
Yeah, so that's a enrichment program for the school. So it's a school-wide program. And the kids get a playbook where they work on certain skills like grit, hard work, determination, discipline, a lot of things that we learned as pros, and then we kind of apply it within their everyday life. So they go through different exercises as a group. The program is called the Huddle Up program. So they have to huddle up with other people in their classroom, and then they have to solve a problem as a group, and then they have to present it in front of other groups and that kind of stuff. So I kind of took some of the football stuff that I learned and then put it in the educational systems to help kids to go through the tough things they go through at home. How can they do that through discipline? How can they do that through grit? Those kind of things within the program. So it services the schools that we're at.
Nice. Pretty cool.
I'm very glad that there are people like you that are thinking about the younger generation, because that really is our future. We need to make sure that even with the way that this generation is, we had talked about it too before, where these kids turn to drugs and become suicidal because they feel like nobody cares about them. Did your parents agree with you playing sports?
Well, that was a really tough one because we grew up Lokwas Fiku, which those that are listening, it's the Seventh-day Adventist church. So they go to church on Saturdays instead of Sundays.
Sundays, right.
Football games are either Friday night or Saturday afternoon. So immediately they were like, nope, you can't play football. You cannot play football. But thank God I lived with my sister at that time, because my sister, she needed me to babysit while she was working. So she really couldn't say anything because she was working on the Sabbath. So she was...
See, that worked out.
Yeah. So I was able to play football on Saturdays because I lived with my sister. Now, if I lived with my mom, it would have never happened. It would have never happened. We would have never played sports. But since I lived with my sister, she was more relaxed in me playing compared to my mom and them. So I ended up playing football and got the okay from my sister to be able to play on Saturdays.
And I'm pretty sure that afterwards, with your parents, being devout Seventh-day Adventists, I'm pretty sure afterwards they were really proud of their son being in the NFL, because a lot of people think it's so easy for us Samoans or Samoan men to get into the league, but have no idea how much hard work it is to get into the NFL. I've seen friends, brothers who have tried, and have been denied, a spot on the teams, and it's not that they're not great. It's just that they weren't looking for that, that kind of NFL player at the time. But so my next question is, when your parents decided to, support you with, it could be like that is your career, NFL. How did they communicate that with you?
Yeah, so growing up as a young football player, I really didn't have that support. And so I didn't have the support of my parents to be able to play sports. They didn't go to any of my games. None of my family actually came to my games. So really I was playing football, and I was the only kid on senior night that didn't have parents walk me through senior night, because they were very adamant on the Sabbath day. And so none of them showed up to any of my sports. So that as a kid, it did hurt. Like it really hurt internally, but
shake, silent fever, wave riders, lava rivers, no